there is something unique to us humans, and it's the fact that when things don't go as we planned them, we quickly look for an external factor that was the reason it didn't work out. We are quick to blame others. We are quick to blame society, the government, the TV, social media, or whatever for the shortcomings we may experience, the faults and the failures and the things we find in our lives that are not positive. And it's almost uniquely human to always look for an external reason rather than stopping in our tracks and asking ourselves what sort of tools, methods, or I guess blueprint did we follow that was the main reason why things ended up the way they did. It's very rare to find someone who will admit that from the beginning they did things the wrong way and as a result they ended up with a negative result. That almost never happens, but it does happen. And so I bought a bunch of books asking myself why are some people more successful than others? Why are some groups of people doing better than other groups of people? And they all have their different answers and they all have their different reasons. And a lot of them make sense. Some are for historical factors, others are just for political reasons. You know, people that will use certain excuses to justify taking power in a non ethical way, etc., etc., etc. But the point is, everything is the result of a decision that I made. Everything is a result of a decision you made. And the thing is, what was the guiding principle behind the decision we took? In the Bible, there's a book called James, and in it, the author says that it says that if you have bitter envy and self-seeking in your hearts, do not boast in and lie against the truth. This wisdom does not descend from above, but it is earthly, sensual, and demonic. For where envy and self-seeking exist, confusion and every evil thing are there. And I'm like, okay, that means that there's a type of wisdom that he calls demonic, and it is characterized by envy and self-seeking, etc., etc., etc. But he keeps on talking, and in verse 17, he says that the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. And these couple verses got me thinking, and then it all started to get clear that humans have the choice of choosing they have the choice to choose an earthly kind of wisdom that he describes as being demonic and self-seeking and full of envy, and they have the choice to also choose to practice a type of wisdom that comes from heaven that is not hypocritical, that is pure, that is gentle, that is full of love, etc. And the more I dug into this line of thought, the more I realized that in the Bible, there's this thing called the fruits of the Spirit and the fruits of the flesh. In the book of Galatians, chapter 5, Paul tries to be kind of straightforward, but then he lays it out in a very clear way. And he says that now the works, Galatians chapter 5, verse 19, he says, now the works of the flesh are evident, which are, and then he goes, adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lewdness, idolatry, sorcery, hatred, contentious, jealousies, outbursts of wrath, selfish ambitions, dissensions, heresies, envy, murders, drunkenness, revelries, and the like, which I tell you beforehand, just as I also told you in the past, that those that practice such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. So I look at this list of behaviors that manifest themselves in society, and Paul is clearly saying that these things come from the flesh. Well, then, if they come from the flesh, then they don't come from heaven, because he goes on to say in verse 22 that the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self control. So there's always an earthly, demonic road that produces a sort of unique evil result. And then you have the good heavenly road that will yield love, peace, joy, long suffering, gentleness, etc., etc., etc. And so the thing is, as a human, as a person, you and I, we have to make the decision of which type of wisdom, which type of fruit we want in our lives. The interesting thing is that if you look at what the Apostle Paul calls the fruits of the flesh, he's basically describing modern day society. Everyone's sleeping with everyone is jealous of everyone is fighting with everyone is looking for a way to get what the other person has because they're jealous of them or they have envy. Everyone is divided into different tribes of political or racial or any other or cultural or any other reason to just fight against someone else. Everyone is looking for ways to be offended. Everyone is trying to say that they're the ones who are right and everybody else is wrong. Everyone is trying to manufacture a type of fake love that is not real. It's just a temporary circumstance that is just a situation where, oh yeah, we love each other now, but as soon as those feelings change and the hormone levels change, then you end up with, oh no, the love is gone. There was never love in there to begin with. But the thing is, we're not talking about love today, but the thing is, it's very clear how the way we choose to live our lives has always created consequences that are either positive or negative. And so we find that the Bible is very clear. We can choose to live in a heavenly wisdom by applying heavenly wisdom principles to our lives, or we can choose to live our lives like everybody else does, following what the Bible calls demonic wisdom that produces fruits that are honestly not conducive to a happy life. Why? Because you can sleep with 100, 300, 500 girls and still be a lonely man. You can sleep with 300 dudes and still feel lonely. You can have $1 million and try to get $1 billion, but if there's no one to share your happiness and your wealth with, then what are you doing? I'm not going to call out anyone, but I've seen tons of rich people that are miserable and a lot of men. I have a friend, I know a guy. He's been with over 500 girls. Easy. But he's not a happy person. Maybe there's something to be said about a person that is always looking, jumping from bed to bed, looking to find happiness but never finds it. And the thing is, how are you going to find happiness if you're using the wrong tool, the wrong method, the wrong, I guess, principles to bring about a result? If I plant lemon trees, there's no way I'm going to get apples out of them. But we keep on planting lemon trees hoping that one of them is going to start giving us the apples we want. Well, if you're smart, then you're going to start planting apples from the beginning. The Bible's very clear. It says, you will reap what you sow. And so, one of the smartest persons to ever live, according to both Christians and non-Christians, was King Solomon. And the guy said that the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom, knowledge of the Most High, understanding. Which kind of wisdom? He says that the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. What does that mean? Well, basically, it means that if you obey the principles God has established in His Word, then you're a wise person because you will be following a type of wisdom that is according to God. Well, according to James, that also means that you will be following heavenly wisdom. And what does that type of wisdom do? It saves you from your own BS. It keeps you and saves you from planting things that in the future will create nothing but pain and suffering for yourself, for your family, for society, for the world at large. What do I mean? For a while, I've been looking at every character in the Bible and then asking myself this question. What type of wisdom did they use when they made a decision? You look at Joseph, for example. Potiphar's wife comes to say, hey, let's go to bed together. And humanly speaking, it would have been smart for him to have a good ally at his master's house. He was a slave. Now his master's wife wants to sleep with him. If he can become her lover, then that means he'll have a strong foothold in that house because he was already the master he was the butler of the house. Well, he says, no, I'm not going to sin against my God. And he went against conventional wisdom and lost the patronage of his mistress, the master's wife. Well, she me too'd him and put him in jail, but ultimately he ended up being Potiphar's boss because he became the prime minister of Egypt. But the thing was, at the moment, for a short term, he did suffer because he chose not to practice the fruits of the flesh. He chose not to practice earthly wisdom. He chose not to manipulate Potiphar's wife. He didn't choose to use things to his advantage. He did not choose to be self seeking in the decisions he made. But ultimately, those decisions that he did do according to the principles established by God gave him everything he wanted. He became a free man, but not only a free man, but a powerful man, and not only a powerful man, but a rich man. He was able to reconcile with his brothers. He was able to see his father. He was able to protect them from the famine, etc., etc., etc. So the question is, what results does earthly wisdom provide, and do I want those results in my life? If all I want is envy and fighting and pain and suffering and always a constant drama in my life, then yeah, sure, go ahead, practice what the Bible calls earthly wisdom. But if what I actually want is love, joy, peace, gentleness in my life, then how do I get that? And the Bible is clear. You go to Joshua chapter 1, verse 8. Everybody always quotes 1 9, but chapter 1, verse 8. And God Himself says, this book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate in it day and night, that you may observe to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. Translation: if you follow the principles that are in this book, you will not only be prosperous, but you will also have great success. Great success. But anyways, the thing is, if you look at any Bible character, you can then say, okay, the decisions they made, were they following earthly wisdom or heavenly wisdom? How do I know? Because of the results. King David, when he got with Bathsheba, was he following earthly wisdom or heavenly wisdom? When he sent her husband to be killed, was he following earthly wisdom or heavenly wisdom? Did he get positive results out of all that mess he made? When you look at Adam and Eve, when Eve decided to tempt Adam or accept the snake's proposal, was she following heavenly wisdom or earthly wisdom? One of the principal characteristics of earthly wisdom is that it will give you short-term happiness or pleasure, but long-term pain. I repeat, earthly wisdom will give you short-term happiness, but long-term pain. You can have 5 minutes with a supermodel, but then 40 years of a complete headache and pain. What do I mean by that? In Miami, there was a guy, he was a high school student. He got with a girl. He was graduating. He had a full scholarship to go to university. He slept with the girl at a party, and he went about his life. Well, the girl didn't like that. He just moved on, and she accused him of assault. Next thing you know, this college prospect goes to jail, and because he actually did sleep with her, there was proof that they were together. He ends up in jail. 4 years later, the girl finally admits that she made the whole thing up, but by then he's already 4 years older. There's no scholarship waiting for him, and there's no football career waiting for him. So yeah, he was with, I don't know, 5-8 minutes, and then what? So earthly wisdom is quick to give you short-term happiness, but long-term pain. However, everyone that I've seen, both in the Bible and in real life, that sacrifices short-term pleasure because of a heavenly principle ends up having long-term success, ends up having long-term happiness. So the question is for you and myself and everyone, what type of result do we want in our lives? But the answer to that question is another question, and is what type of wisdom are we employing in our lives? King Solomon said in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12, verse 13, the following. He said, Ecclesiastes 12:13, and I'm quoting so you don't think I'm making it up. And further, my son, oh, here, 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is man's all. The smartest man had 1,000 wives, was rich beyond measure, even secret societies want to be associated with him, says that at the end of everything, fear God and keep his commandments, because that's all for a man, all for a human, all for a person. Why? Because here's the thing. People think that the Bible was written to keep you from being happy. That God gave you commandments because he doesn't want you to enjoy life. That there are principles and rules and ways to do things that, if you follow them, God wants you to be miserable. Well, not really, because if you look at the meats and potatoes of the thing, if you look at what really happens when you follow those rules, you are free from the things that you thought were going to make you happy. Here's what I mean. You're a married man, you have your wife, you have your 2.5 kids, or however many kids are statistically now relevant, but you have your 2 kids, your white picket fence house, you live in a nice suburb, you have a good job, you make over $100,000 a year, you're doing fine for yourself. Why are you going to go mess your whole family up for 10 minutes with the neighbor's wife? Oh, but I want to be happy. How are you going to be happier getting through a divorce and losing half your stuff? Are you going to be happy through that? Or are you going to be happier? Oh, no, yeah. Losing half my stuff in a divorce is worth 10 minutes with a woman that's going to go back to her husband, who's going to go forgive her because she's a trophy wife, and that dude is a beta that's always going to be like, oh, no, I don't care what you do, babe. Just come back to me. Really? You see governments, you see churches, you see everyone throwing aside principles to short-term happiness, but then you see that society gets worse, churches are emptier or full of a whole bunch of hypocrites, and you ask yourself, why? Well, it's simple. They stop following the rules, and when they stop following the rules, the game is a mess. Imagine a basketball game where there are no rules. You can shoot where you want. You can run with the ball as many steps as you want. You can shoot in any hoop. You can put as many people as you want on the court. The court can be any size. The players can be any size, any age, any height, anything. This is not a game. It's a mess. And so I don't want to go on a rant, but ultimately my question is this. What results are you seeing in your own life? What's the reality you're living in? And if the reality you're living in is not giving you the happiness you want, then instead of blaming everybody else and everything else outside of you, then start asking yourself, what type of principles are guiding the decisions I make? And what results are those principles creating or producing? If the results you're creating, if the results you're producing are not making you happy, then forget everybody else. Choose to change the way you do things and see if that gives you the positive result you want. I've made that decision. Oh, I was getting fat. Okay, fine. Then what am I doing? Is the world conspiring against me to make me 300 pounds? No. Why am I getting fatter? Well, because I'm eating more. Then what do I need to do to stop being fat? Well, I need to start working out and eating more protein and less carbs and less pizza and less boba tea and less McDonald's and less Chick-fil-A and less Whataburger and a whole bunch of other foods that are delicious, but they go straight to the belly nest. You know what I mean? In the end, we have one life, and we choose how we live that life. And it is no way to live life feeling like you're a slave to what surrounds you. No, you're free to choose what you make of yourself. But please, consider the following. If you follow earthly wisdom, you will only produce pain, suffering, and death in your life. Sin is never going to give you the happiness it promotes. Sin is never going to give you the happiness it offers. From the moment Adam and Eve ate from that fruit, they thought they were going to be happier than before. And no, they were even more miserable. One of their sons killed one of their sons killed his own brother, and then they saw that the world turned to garbage. Oh, I'm going to have 1,000 girls. Well, Solomon did, and if you read the book of Proverbs, he regrets doing that because it was just constant drama and bickering in his house. Oh, I'm gonna put away doing the right thing to, you know, make some extra money. Well, yeah, sure, you can do that for 3, 4 years, but then you spend 20 years in jail because you were selling drugs or something. I don't know why we delude ourselves in thinking that we're gonna get a different result doing the same things everybody else does. And putting our hope and faith in people that only are looking for ways to make themselves either richer or more powerful. But the point is, because I've been ranting for too long, we choose what wisdom we want to follow. And if you're smart, you will realize that earthly wisdom does not give you the results it offers. It gives you short term pleasure, but long term pain. But yet, if you follow heavenly wisdom, in some cases you will have short term pain. But I guarantee you, not because I'm strong or whatever, but because God guarantees it Himself, that you will have long term happiness if you follow the principles that He presents. You are free to choose, but please choose responsibly and choose in a way that years later you can take full accountability of the decisions you made and you can have full res- not responsibility but full happiness in knowing that every decision you made and everything you have is thanks to the choice you made. Nobody else made a choice for you. You chose to do that and you chose to go down that route and you chose to produce those results. When you take that accountability in your life, then I think and I know humans can be truly happy when you are the master of your own universe and you're the master, the architect of your own life. So, which way are you going to choose? I hope you choose heavenly wisdom because earthly wisdom is, yeah, no.